Hey, friends. I hope that you are so well and slowly easing into August. That might not be possible, actually. It's been crazy over here. I don't know about you, but no, back to school there's always something really chaotic, but strangely satisfying for me in it all. I think I really crave structure as an Enneagram 4, and this time of year kind of forces that, at least it has on me from year to year. And so there's kind of a return to like the grind. But I mean, you got to mix it up always, but I don't know, there's something really satisfying about that. Um, so as we begin this kind of temporary descent of the practice and start to land this plane for now. I want to just sum up some of the most important elements of self-care and the Enneagram for you to take with you as I've experienced them and as I've studied. My hope is that these really simple and profound concepts will really tether you throughout these next several months, and that they will just impact you in a way that uh, allows you to kind of come back to center over and over again. Uh, and I really do believe that all self-care is built on this thing that we're talking about today, which is self-compassion. And I I read a book by Shauna Shapiro a few years back when it came out, and she talked about how she wanted to rebrand self-care as self-compassion. And I love that idea because I think at the very foundational level, self-compassion is where we have to start any type of uh, befriending process with ourselves, which is what I like to describe self-care as, is self-befriending. I initially created the practice to be like a three-pronged approach to self-care. So it's learning through weekly emails and videos about the Enneagram and aspects of self-care. That's kind of the programming. Um, and understanding the Enneagram and the deeper self-understanding that it brings, as well as the practices themselves, which are meditation, writing, and self-compassion. That was initially, I added movement in there. Um, so I guess there's four prongs. Uh, so meditation, writing, movement, but I think those things are all at the very baseline of that is self-compassion. I love this idea that we have to start from this place of self-compassion. We can't do self-care if we're pitted against ourselves. We have to be on our own team. And sometimes that feels easier in seasons than others. And I'm fully aware of that as well. There have been seasons of my life where I've absolutely not liked myself. And yet done things for myself that felt loving, and that's a start. If that's where you are, that's a good start. And yet I think as we start to um, do things that are in alignment with ourselves, that support ourselves, that we treat ourselves better, I do think the natural progression is that we start to kind of like ourselves more, and just get to know ourselves in the least a little bit more. Um, I think to grow and evolve, we really have to come to a place of acceptance. And that is something that's very out of reach for people at in different seasons of life. And I think about this, it makes me sad today to think about it, but I think about, 22-year-old Katie and how, how much self-loathing I actually had, and how far I've come. And I was laughing the other day thinking about this. I was like, if I knew back then that I was going to be writing content about how to befriend yourself, I would have just not believed her. I wouldn't have believed it because it was such a different story back then. And so it is a process, and it's one that I'm so proud of. Maybe one of the proudest things I think that I can say about myself is that I've become really good friends with myself. So, if self-compassion is really this process and self-care is a process of befriending ourselves and treating ourselves with kindness, just like we would a loved one, it's a little bit different than self-esteem. Self-esteem is not what we're talking about here, which self-esteem is not a bad thing. It just is what I love what Shauna Shapiro calls it. It's a fair weather friend. So it's really only there if you're crushing it, right? If the scale is showing you the right number, if you get a second date with that guy, if your kids are behaving well, if you get that book deal, if your work review is positive, self-esteem is really great, kind of props you up. It's like a high five, right? But if those things are not available to you, self-esteem goes away, right? It plummets. Self-compassion, on the other hand, is a constant ally. No matter the circumstances, self-compassion says, hey, I see you. Self-compassion leans in, I see you, and I'm here with you. And we're going to get through this together. I'm not going anywhere. So it's just this unconditional um, presence and friendship, right? Because we would never talk to our worst enemies the way that we talk to ourselves sometimes. So it's learning to speak to ourselves with kindness, to treat ourselves with kindness, to let our schedule and calendars reflect that. And that's where the other self-care stuff comes in, right? Because when we are able to kind of speak to ourselves and create this really adaptive, expansive atmosphere within ourselves, we choose to do good things for ourselves. Um, so self-compassion holds just this loving space for you to be with you in painful times and in good times. There's so much science that also backs up why self-compassion is actually the way to succeed more in life. Yet we don't have all the space to explore that here. But I will say, if you think that, which is what I used to think, well, if I'm not hard on myself, I won't achieve, I won't stay in line, right? That's actually not correct. Self-compassion is a motivator. It helps us, it primes our brain to learn and create and motivate and change. Um, so let me quickly just say something about how it relates to the Enneagram. Self-compassion allows us to do the deeper work of the Enneagram because it's not based in ego, it's based in pure essence, right? It's the true self. The Enneagram helps us come to this realization of who we are at the core level. And when we do the work of the Enneagram, we must meet ourselves with loads of compassion as we unearth these often difficult things about ourselves. So this week and once a month going forward, here is your self-compassion practice. Okay. It sounds weird, but it starts to get fun, I promise. I want you to take yourself on a date, a friend date. I want you to plan out and block off time on your calendar this week for at least 2 hours with the one and only you. Um, so, what sounds really life giving and nourishing? What feels playful? What's inspiring? What would you want to do with a friend? That's your plan. And the goal here is to connect with you, to be with you, and show some kindness and curiosity along the way. So have fun with that each month. It's something that I want you to look forward to, um, because it's on the calendar and it's all about you. And it's all about getting to pal around with yourself for a couple hours. So have fun with that. Last week, um, we kind of discussed how we are taking a pause, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more next week because it's our last week for the time being. And then 2026 will invite a lot of exciting opportunities with the practice as some things take flight. So stay tuned, but I will see you next week nonetheless. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care.